What if the school bully picked on the wrong girl? One with a secret so powerful it could change everything. This is the story of Maya Williams, a quiet new student who just wanted to blend in. Until she crossed paths with Bryce Carter, the most feared guy at Clearview High. He thought she was weak, an easy target. But he was about to learn how badly he'd misjudged her. Music swelled slightly. The yellow school bus hissed to a stop in front of Clearview High School, Houston, Texas. Maya stepped off, gripping the straps of her backpack, staring up at the massive brick building that looked more like a fortress than a school. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of cut grass and fading summer heat. Students laughed in groups, phones out, backpacks slung carelessly. Like they belonged there, Maya didn't. This was her fourth transfer in 3 years, not because of trouble, but because starting over was the only thing she knew how to do. She walked toward the entrance, head down, hoping no one noticed. Inside, chaos ruled, lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked. Teachers shouted for students to get to class. Maya clutched her schedule like a shield. She knew this routine. Find her locker, figure out lunch, and most importantly, learn who to avoid. That's when she saw him, Bryce Carter. Tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of confidence that filled the hallway without trying. Letterman jacket, easy grin, surrounded by his crew, the kind of guys who laughed a little too loud and a little too nervously. He was the golden boy, star quarterback, rich family, untouchable reputation. Maya had met his kind before, the ones who thrived on fear, and she had no plans of crossing paths. But fate had other ideas. As she passed, a hard shoulder slammed into hers, not an accident. Her books scattered across the floor. A few students snickered. Maya bent down, cheeks burning, and then came the voice. Bryce, smirking. Well, what do we have here? She froze. Didn't need to look up to know who it was. That lazy confidence, that cruel amusement. Bryce, don't think I've seen you before. You knew? Maya said nothing, just gathered her books and started walking. Bryce, hey, where's your manners? I asked you a question. She kept going. She knew this game. Bullies wanted reactions. Silence hurt them more than words ever could. Then came a sharp tug on her backpack, not enough to hurt. Just enough to make a point. The hallway fell quiet. Even the laughter faded. Maya turned slowly, meeting his gaze. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Confusion, maybe curiosity. Maya, quietly. You shouldn't have done that. Bryce raised an eyebrow, then laughed. Bryce, and why's that? She didn't answer, just stared, unflinching. He smirked. Bryce, you're kinda weird, you know that? A few of his friends chuckled. Maya turned and walked away. She didn't have to look back to know. Bryce Carter wasn't done with her. Not yet, because he had no idea who he was dealing with. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maya stayed quiet, head down doing what she always did, blending into the background, but this time, she could feel it, eyes on her, whispers trailing behind her like smoke. At lunch, she sat alone near the edge of the cafeteria, where she could watch without being watched. Bryce and his crew sat at their usual spot in the center, laughing like they owned the world. Every now and then, she'd feel his gaze drift her way, testing, waiting, but he didn't approach. Not yet. When the final bell rang, Maya breathed out in relief. The Houston sun still burned hot as she walked toward the bus stop, the pavement shimmering. She reached for her phone, when a familiar voice stopped her cold. Bryce. Hey, new girl. She turned. There he was, hands in his pockets, that same arrogant grin on his face. A few of his friends stood behind him, waiting for a show. Maya sighs. What do you want? Bryce stepped forward, smirk widening. Bryce, you got an attitude problem, you know that? She didn't respond. Her silence made him bolder. Bryce, what, you think you're better than me? Maya let out a short laugh, not nervous, not scared, just amused. That alone made Bryce's grin falter. Maya, I think you should walk away. For a moment he froze, then scoffed. Bryce, oh yeah? And why's that? Maya leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. Maya, because you have no idea who I am. Bryce chuckled, the sound dripping with disbelief. Bryce, and who exactly are you? Maya didn't answer. Instead, she took out her phone and pressed a single button. A black Dodge Charger Hellcat rolled up to the curb, the kind of car that made the entire block turn to look. The tinted window slid down, revealing Vin Diesel behind the wheel. Bryce's smirk vanished. Maya smiled for the first time that day. Maya, still think I'm weird? Bryce couldn't speak. For once, the king of Clearview High had nothing to say. Vin Diesel didn't say a word either. He just stared. That calm, deadly kind of stare that made Bryce's friends step back. The moment hung in silence. Then Vin spoke, voice deep and steady. Vin Diesel. Get in. Here Maya walked past Bryce, calm and unbothered, as if this was just another day. The crowd of students stood frozen, whispering as the Charger's door shut. The car roared to life and sped away, leaving behind one speechless bully, and a school full of rumors waiting to explode. Because from that moment on, Maya Williams wasn't invisible anymore. The next morning, Clearview High was buzzing. Whispers filled the halls before the first bell even, and everyone was talking about one thing and the new girl, the one who showed up with Vin Diesel, behind the wheel of a Hellcat. Maya didn't need to. Guess who started the rumors? By the time she reached her locker, she could feel the stares, the half-hidden smirks, and standing in the middle of it all was Bryce Carter. He wasn't smiling this time, he just watched her, arms crossed, his pride bruised deeper than anyone could see. Maya met his gaze for half a second, calm and unreadable, then turned away. She didn't need to say a word. Beat of silence and sound of a bell ringing. At lunch, things escalated. Maya carried her tray through the cafeteria when one of Bryce's goons, a bulky linebacker named Ryan, accidentally stuck out his foot. Maya stumbled, her tray rattling, but she caught herself before she fell. Laughter rippled through the room. Bryce's table was full of smirks. Maya straightened up, eyes cold. I didn't realize cavemen still existed, she said flatly, a collective "oh" swept. Across the cafeteria, Ryan froze. Even Bryce's smirk twitched. Maya didn't wait for their reaction. She just walked to her seat and started eating like nothing happened. But she knew what was coming. Bryce Carter wasn't the type to let something go, and that afternoon, she found out just how far he'd go to make a point. When Maya reached her locker after class, she stopped cold. The metal door was covered in marker, words she didn't bother reading. Her books were scattered across the floor. She sighed softly. A few students hovered nearby, waiting to see what she'd do. Maya didn't flinch. She knelt, picked up each book one by one, stacked them neatly, and shut her locker with calm precision. No tears, no yelling, no reaction, and that, more than anything, unnerved Bryce. Music shifts, quieter, tense and cold. That night, Maya sat at the kitchen table, tapping her fingers on the wood. Across from her, Vin Diesel leaned against the counter, arms folded. Maya, they trashed my locker today. Vin, smirking. That's their best move? Maya, for now. Vin, so what's yours? Maya looked up, her expression steady. Maya, I'm gonna let him dig his own grave. Vin chuckled. That quiet, approving laugh of his. Vin, now that's my girl, because Bryce Carter thought he was running the game. But Maya Williams, she was just getting started. The next morning, whispers followed Maya from the front doors to her first class, but they weren't the same whispers as before. Yesterday, people talked about the new girl with Vin Diesel. Today, they were talking about Bryce Carter. Everyone had seen what he did to her locker. Half the school thought it was pathetic. The other half started wondering if Bryce was losing his edge. He stood by his usual spot near the lockers, trying to laugh it off with his friends, but Maya could see it. The cracks. His jokes didn't land. His friends didn't laugh as hard, and for the first time, Bryce Carter looked uncertain. When Maya walked past, she didn't even glance his way. That silence hit harder than any insult. At lunch, the tension broke. Bryce shouted across the cafeteria, "Hey Maya, you still crying about your locker?" The room quieted. Maya didn't stop walking. She set her tray down and finally looked at him. "It's funny," she said. "You keep talking about my dad like you're not the one who nearly passed out when you saw him." Every head turned. Laughter rippled. Bryce froze, his grin slipping. "You think you're tough?" he snapped. "Just because some rich guy picked you up in a fancy car?" Maya shook her head. "I don't need to prove anything." That sentence hit him harder than the crowd's laughter. Bryce's confidence cracked again, and Maya knew she had him. After school, he waited by his car, arms crossed, alone this time. When she approached, he said, "Why don't you fight back?" Maya stopped. "Because I don't need to," he scoffed. "That's not how it works. People like me push, people like you get run over." "Or maybe," Maya said, "people like me wait. We let you keep pushing until everyone sees how weak you really are." Bryce's jaw tightened. "You don't know a thing about me." "Maybe not," she said, "but I know you're scared." "Not of me, of being irrelevant." He had no comeback. For the first time, Bryce Carter stayed silent. That night, Maya told Vin what happened. "I think I got in his head," she said. "Good," Vin replied. "You want this to end?" "No," she said. "I want him to end it himself," Vin smiled. "Smart." Maya leaned back in her chair. "It's only a matter of time, because Bryce Carter wasn't the predator anymore. He was the prey." Days passed. And for Bryce Carter, each one felt heavier than the last. The school that once followed him now watched him, every laugh behind his back, every whisper in the hallway. He could feel it. The spotlight he'd lived under his whole life was starting to burn. Maya didn't need to do anything. She just stayed quiet, kept showing up, kept watching him unravel. It started small. His friends skipping lunch at his table, teachers calling him out for late work, teammates rolling their eyes when he bragged. Then came the real hit. Someone leaked the security footage, the one showing Bryce trashing Maya's locker. By noon, everyone had seen it. By the end of the day, his reputation was gone. He stormed through the halls, trying to find who did it. But every face turned away. No one wanted to be seen with him anymore. When he finally found Maya by the courtyard, she was sitting alone reading. He stopped in front of her. "Breathing hard, you think this is funny?" he said. Maya looked up slowly. "I didn't post that video." "Liar," she closed her book. "Bryce, for someone who loves attention, you really don't understand what happens when people stop caring." He frowned. "You ruined me." "No," she said. "You did that yourself." For a second he almost spoke, but there was nothing left to say. The crowd that once cheered for him now watched in silence. He walked away. Shoulders heavy, pride shattered, Maya stood. Watching him disappear into the noise, she didn't smile, didn't celebrate. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about balance. Later that evening, Vin found her standing outside. Staring at the sunset, he asked, "So it's done?" Maya nodded. "Yes, he got what he earned." Vin studied her for a moment. "Feel better?" She thought about it. "Not really," she said, "but it feels right." Vin nodded once. "That's enough." The streetlights flickered on. Maya turned to walk home, her shadow long against the pavement. The girl who arrived invisible had changed. The whole school without lifting a hand, and Bryce Carter, the boy who thought he ruled everything, was just another name in a story that moved on without him. Because power doesn't come from fear, it comes from control, and Maya Williams had both.